The U.S. and Iran ceasefire deal is bringing a sigh of relief, and today the Trump administration is saying the Pentagon's job is done in Iran.
The pause follows nearly 40 days of war with Iran. The announcement was made yesterday, an hour and a half before the president's deadline to launch new devastating strikes on the country. Today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth echoed the president's message, touting the ceasefire a big day for world peace. He praised the U.S. troops and our military efforts.
Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come.
But Hegseth said troops aren't going anywhere and also clarified that U.S. troops are prepared to defend and restart at a moment's notice to make sure that Iran complies with the ceasefire.
Joining us now is Benjamin Radd, professor of political science and global studies at UCLA. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Glad to be back.
A lot of people calling this a fragile deal. It's just a 2-week deal. Even Vice President J.D. Vance calling it a fragile truce. There are reports of movement now resuming in the Strait of Hormuz, but missile activity has not fully stopped. Can you talk about the biggest risks here that could cause the deal to collapse before talks even begin?
Well, I think the biggest risk is even the fact that there's not a unified message coming out of the Iranian government as to what this deal entails. We saw the foreign minister issue a statement outlining the parameters of the deal late yesterday, and then not long after that, the Supreme Council, National Security Council of Iran, which basically consists of the high-ranking IRGC leadership, issuing a much more forceful, aggressive 10-point statement indicating that the United States agreed to conditions such as giving Iran control of the strait, paying reparations for damages done, removing sanctions, and allowing for uranium enrichment. These are terms that are no-go for the United States. So it's difficult to see right now exactly what the terms of this deal are and where all sides land on this. And meanwhile, there's still fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in that part of the world.
Well, there was just, it looks like, another bombing by Israel in Lebanon just about an hour or so ago.
Yes, indeed, exactly. So Hezbollah and Israel are not part of the deal, but they are also part of the deal, depending on who you ask. How this fragile ceasefire can remain, knowing that there's still active fighting going on between Israel and one of Iran's major proxies, makes it difficult to see how anything can be sustained.
And Professor, like you just said, there have been conflicting signals about this ceasefire with varying reports of what it entails on both sides. Iran says it would be allowed to continue enriching uranium. Trump said no, but the U.S. will help dig up what was buried in last year's strikes. Is that level of cooperation likely?
Well, that's what the United States has offered. Now, whether Iran agrees to that is a different question. We saw Secretary Hegseth yesterday, I believe this morning, mention that the United States will retrieve that highly enriched uranium that remains buried, about 440 kilograms, even if it means the U.S. has to send special forces to do so. That does not sound like cooperation to me. That sounds like sort of an aggressive statement to go in and seize the uranium, and I doubt the Iranians would be happy with that. So again, conflicting messages here. We're not exactly sure what is considered cooperation and what is considered a condition.
Can I ask you how Pakistan became such a key mediator in all of this?
So Pakistan in recent years has been forging closer ties with the Islamic Republic, and they've also used the relationship with the United States to try to act as a bridge, as an intermediary between the two, and felt that they were the ones really in a position to be able to bring the sides together, or at least act as mediators in a way that will allow them to convey their needs and feel that there's a bit of trust between those countries and Pakistan that would enable this deal to happen.
Professor Benjamin Radd, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.